Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Off Point. My name's Les Steed.
I'm Marlon White.
And today we have a special guest, spoken word poet and writer extraordinaire, Curly Wordy. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you, that's nice.
Ooh.
Thank you for saying I'm an extraordinaire.
I know, I like that word.
Extraordinaire.
I was like, ooh, it's extraordinaire.
Yeah,
all right, so let's just kick off with the usual. Tell us about yourself. Don't know why I went camp there, but...
Tell us about myself. Wow, what would you like to know?
Okay, so let's start with, used to be... Okay, so I know I've been all over your website earlier, so we've just been chatting as well.
Did a little bit of research.
Did a little bit of research. I'm sitting there just Googling
Research is always
frantically,
good.
like, good God. It's like, why does she do so much?
Well, that's interesting to pick you up on that, because I think there was a point in life where I was very hyper-driven.
Yeah.
Like I was, for me, like achievement was an addiction, you know, and I look back through life and it was, you know, that idea of getting that kind of dopamine drip from like, you know, and some people get it from all sorts of different things, be it shopping or I get it from there too sometimes, but, you know, other addictions that might be less healthy. But for me, it was achievement, you know, and I like got addicted to learning and it was like this unquenchable need to know more. And that's fascinating. So when you say she's done so much, there was a point where I felt like I had all this energy and I had to put it somewhere and I had to, it was just this desire to just want to know more.
Yeah.
Just like I was information hungry.
So how did that affect your experience in school? Were you quite academic? Did you go to university?
Or was it something that came along later on in life?
Interesting. My memories of growing up in East London, because I grew up in Tower Hamlets in the 80s in Bow, and
love the
they,
accent,
yeah,
it's
thank
cool.
you.
It's very, it's like, where are you from? Bow.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Bow, you know, and I talk about being a cockney a lot, and even when I went off to uni, which I'll come to, I was always proud to be an East Ender, and I'd often say to people I was more proud to be a cockney than I was, say, a Londoner, because for me, cockney was a spirit, you know, and you would talk to... The cockneys were generally quite chirpy and they were very welcoming and it didn't matter... in a way, and it didn't matter where you were, it didn't matter your kind of ethnicity or creed or gender or original, like where your parents were from. If you were born within the sound of the Bow Bells, you are deemed a cockney. So it wouldn't be uncommon to go into like shops where there'd be like second generation Irish, or you know, I went to school with lots of Bangladeshi and Sikh and Hindus, and they had Cockney accents, you know. That's and cool. They would be deemed a Cockney because they were born there, you know. So yeah, I love being a Cockney. So sorry, growing up.
Sorry, while we're on the subject of being Cockney, where's the border of where counts as being Cockney and where doesn't? Because you know, you've got Bow, you've got the East End, and it's a big place. Well,
because Bow, so it starts at St Mary le Bow, which is the church is in Cheapside, which is kind of near Liverpool Street, the Bank.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and if you think Bank, you know, the reason East London was always going to be or take off the way it has is because it was literally on the brink of the banking area. So cheap housing there was kind of bought up massively in the 90s, you know. And slowly.
Liverpool Street?
No, in East London. So the church is in Cheapside, and it runs all the way out to like even here, you know,
like Essex borders. Kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's more, but it is more around east, and I'd say Woolwich would be included, and I'd have to double check that if Greenwich was, but. You know,
so am I technically
associating Greenwich
with East London or Cockney then?
Oh, I don't know.
Still London. What are you talking about?
No.
You're like your mother's Windrush.
Yeah.
But, what do you want?
But
you can't have both.
I want everything. I want all the titles.
So it is almost a point up to a certain
juxtaposition if you're both.
a certain part of the River Thames, but certainly southeast, I think, surely would be included. It's when you go more like west and north, it's not included. But then you'll go.
It's a different world.
It is a different world.
It's a weirdly different culture, but it's so subtle.
It definitely is, and like growing up in Bow, I like my memories are of freedom really, because I was always out on my BMX, and my BMX had very high currency. You know, I'd always be out, and I was I was quite adventurous and curious, and I used to love insects and birds, and I'd always come home with like a wounded bird on the back of my bike and say to my mum, like, can we keep it?
At the back. Yeah. Just sit in the back, like, please don't eat me.
Yeah.
I've had a rough day.
I remember once my mum finding worms under my pillow because I tried to keep them. She's like, we can't keep them, babe. You got to put them back.
Calm.
Yeah.
I'd have been like checking you for headlights.
Yeah, well,
I would have freaked out.
Because I had such curly hair, there was points where I regularly had headlights.
Really?
Back. Yeah.
I thought they didn't like curly hair.
Oh, that's a myth.
That's a myth.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I ended up cutting my hair off when I was 8.
Really?
Yeah, and because I was quite a chubby kid, people started calling me. Do you remember the astrologist Russell Grant?
No.
You've never heard Russell Grant? Look him up. He used to do because it was Mystic Meg in the News of the World. He used to do one of the horoscopes, and people started saying to me that I looked like Russell. Ouch. Russell Grant, yeah. And years later,
that's
actually,
a dickish thing to say.
Yeah,
to
but
years
later, as a journo,
shaved it off, and it's like, that's brave.
Yeah, I mean, it was cruel. Like, kids are cruel, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but years later, when I met him because he was like campaigning against this motocross planning application that had gone out in Middlesex, and I was a journo on a paper out in Surrey.
So this is Russell Grant.
Yeah.
I mean, that is quite funny. I'm not saying it's uncanny.
If I showed
I'm
you
just
a
saying
picture of me as a kid.
yeah. I don't want to sound like one of the kids being a bully.
That's all right. It's cute.
I mean, it's not. It's bad, but it's creative.
But I actually told him. I actually said to him, people used to say, I look like you when I was a kid, and he went, oh, darling.
Oh, you actually met him?
Yeah, and I spoke to him over the phone when I was a journo, and he was like, oh, darling, I do have East End connections, but I hope you don't have my weight problem.
Aww.
And I was like,
I like it when they're a little bit self-conscious, and you're just like, not self-conscious, sorry, but when they're a little bit like... Yeah, when they're a bit more, like down to earth and stuff.
So sorry, I have got sidelined. I'll condense
it's literally
it.
called off point.
Yeah.
See,
True.